Welcome to our podcast, Elevating Mentor Skills. Join us today, ladies and gentlemen, as we delve into the key qualities of effective mentors, uncover strategies to build strong relationship, and discover techniques to guide and empower mentees on their journey to success. Let us be inspired today and learn so much from one of the success coaches of TUA who is very an expert on this field and an exceptional mentor himself. Let's now welcome Evan Karras. Yay!
Hi,
Hi,
hello,
Evan.
Lee. Hi,
Happy New
thank
Year.
you,
How are you going?
thank you. I'm doing
Nice,
very well.
nice to
Happy
see
New Year
you.
to you too,
Happy
and
New
Happy New Year
Year.
to everyone who's watching and listening as well. Thank you very much for having me.
It
I'm
is a
very
privilege
humbled.
for me.
I'm very humbled by your introduction, though. I've got to say, I don't know about
Why?
expert, but I'm very humbled. Thank you. It's lovely to be here.
You've got a round of applause there, okay? Yes, you are an
Thank you.
exceptional mentor and very much expert in this field. And I am very
Thank you.
much privileged and an honor for me, to have this podcast with you. I'll just call it episode one, obviously, elevating
Great.
mentorship skills, right? Are you ready, Evan? I'm sure a lot of people will be watching the
Ready.
recorded as well. And let's start the ball rolling. Now,
Sure. Great.
Evan,
Let's go.
last year I was talking. I had a chance to talk to a lot of students and staff at the same time, and random people on campus. And I have collated all their possible questions on how to become effective mentors
Great.
one day, and even mentees as well. What are the expectations and all that? So let's start off with they're all easy questions, don't you worry. Okay, so
Great.
what are the key? What are excuse me? What are the key qualities that makes a great mentor?
I think for me, the standout is to show empathy. I think to understand where the mentee is coming from and to understand the journey that the mentee is on. We all have a different journey in life, whether we're on a spiritual journey or an academic journey or on a professional journey. We all have a very, very different journey. Being a good mentor means understanding the journey that the mentee is on. More importantly, from there also is being able to put yourself in that mentee's position and say to the mentee, I've been there before. I know what you're feeling. I hear you. I respect what you're saying. This is what works for me. Let's travel this road together. And I think that for me is probably the standout feature of a good, strong mentor, and certainly something that I try to instill and exhibit in everything that I do as a mentor with my mentees.
I love that passion there, Evan. I can feel your energy and that word empathy. I believe that. I believe in that. You can't be,
Definitely.
effective in guiding other people to become a better version of themselves if you yourselves is not yet, being effective at the same time. So you need to also experience that too, that moment. Lovely. Thank you so
Definitely.
much. What a great start, Thank you. Love what you do. I love that. Where's behind you as well. Now, you know, every individual is a unique being, right? It's there are different personality clashes and different mindset wavelength, as we have always mentioned this before. How can a mentor or how can mentors effectively establish rapport and trust with their mentees?
Well, like I said before, it all starts with empathy. Okay. So a mentee is not going to trust you unless they can see that you yourself are genuine, authentic, empathetic, and have been on that journey before. You're not going to seek mentorship from someone who is disingenuous, who has not been on the same road that you have been on or in a similar circumstance. You're not going to seek mentorship from that person. So it doesn't mean that if you are a sports player that you need to always be mentored by someone who's been in sports. That's not necessarily the case. But what I'm saying is the journeys need to match. If you are trying to rebuild your career, you might have been out of the workplace for a long time, you're trying to rebuild your career. You want to get mentored by someone who understands what it's like to have that long career break, who understands what it might be like to re-enter higher education or re-enter the workforce or start from an entry level position because you might have been out of the workforce for a long time. So to get that real genuine relationship, you need to see that your mentor is trustworthy, and more importantly for me is shows a lot of genuity. Showing that you are authentic as a mentor for me has always proved to my favor and to my mentees' favor. Let me give you an example. So there's a student who I mentored a number of years ago when I first started at Torrance, and he was a domestic student, so there was a bit of a difference in our ages. But we were both really at the same. We were both starting our journey at the same time. So I was starting my university journey, my second journey or third journey later in life, and he was starting his first journey. So, but we had come from similar backgrounds, similar experience, and certainly had similar interests in things. The reason why the reason why we gelled and we became such a good fit straight away is because he could see in himself qualities that I had. So he said, when I was talking to him about when I first started at university, when I was 18, and when I first left high school, and what I wanted to be, and my grand ideas and my grand career, he could see in me exactly qualities that he had himself. So because he could see that I was a very authentic person, we mentored and menteed together very, very effectively and very easily. And now, it's been 3 years and I'm still his mentor. So I've seen him go from undergraduate degree at Torrens to a postgraduate degree to getting his very first ever casual job to getting his first sort of pretty serious contractual job. And now he's got his very first serious proper career job. So absolutely in the line of work that he wants to get into. And I've been mentoring him now for 3 years. So I think it shows that that genuity, that trust, that empathy, that understanding, if it's there from day one, it's a long-lasting relationship. And it's certainly a relationship that can grow and go along that path together with your mentee. I think it's very important.
Wow, I'm very much gobsmacked at this time. I love that the way the you're very authentic and genuine, and how you have connected your energy to another person like your mentees, and look at that relationship. I'm sure they are very proud of you as well right now where you are at the moment, and that's like a law of attraction, isn't it, as well? And
Yeah,
Evan,
definitely.
I mean, I'll be willing to be one of your mentees, Evan, as well. That'll be great, because I would love to have that kind of sort of like good values and the core values that you have.
Yeah,
Like right now, talking to you, I feel really comfortable. Like,
that's good.
I can
That's
easily like,
exactly what it's supposed to be about. Yeah,
there you
absolutely.
go. So again, you are an exceptional like mentor. So I'm so glad that we're
Thank
talking
you.
right now.
It's been really good and been really refreshing seeing him succeed, especially, and part of that mentorship journey for everyone who's listening, it's not always smooth sailing. There are many
Hmm.
times in the last 3 years where our relationship was tested, right? Where I was frustrated because he was at that stage where I don't really want to go to university. It's not really for me. Very exceptional, smart student, but just needed to apply himself a little bit more just to get over the line. And there are times when I felt very tested as a mentor. Like, is this guy really taking me seriously? Am I wasting my time? Is he even listening to me? But we both persevered with a relationship because we knew that we both wanted the same thing. He wanted to get out of the relationship exactly what he needed to become an authentic, true version of himself and to excel in his studies and to excel in his professional journey and his networking. And that's what he's done. And I really wanted to see him succeed because I had absolute faith in this guy. I thought he's got the skills, he just needs to apply himself a bit more and he's going to get across the line. 3 years later, I'm seeing him excel and I could not be prouder.
Wow. Excellent, excellent job, Evan. You must be very proud of yourself and the whole TUA, all of us success coaches, like cheering up for you. It's really good that you've done a great,
Thank you.
excellent, not just great job, but excellent job. Now, talking about, you've mentioned about some challenging situations during mentorship. Again, every day is not a perfect day, obviously, even
Yeah.
inside our house as well, like with our relationship with our family, everything. And what more professionally at the same time. So, how can mentors navigate challenging situations or conflicts that may arise during the mentorship relationship? Could you expound on
Yeah.
that a little bit?
Yeah,
Thank
good
you.
question. It's really important to be open. So, if I feel like I am facing a challenge, or I myself feel like I'm being challenged by something in the relationship, or I get a sense that the mentee is being challenged by something that I'm suggesting or asking or talking about, or we're working through together, it's really important to be honest and upfront. And I'm always a very honest and upfront person. So it's important to say, hey, this is what I'm feeling. This is what I think. This is what I can see. Always be open and honest. This is, I mean, the mentor-mentee relationship really is no different to any relationship than you would have with any person in your life. All right. Obviously, there are differences, but with your friends, your best friends are the people that you are open with, that you're transparent with, that you're honest with, that you show authenticity about. These are the people that are your best friends. The acquaintances are the ones that you might not see that often, but your best friends are the ones that you can rely on. And you bring those same skills into a mentoring relationship. So when I've been challenged in the past, I've said, hey, look, I'm feeling a little bit of animosity, or I'm feeling a little bit of, you're standing back, or you're holding back, or I feel like you're not really applying some of the stuff that we're working on, which is why maybe your grades are suffering, or maybe why you haven't reached that goal yet of where you want to go. Be open, be authentic, and talk about it. Sometimes the pushback from the mentee, or even sometimes the mentor, sometimes the pushback can be because they don't understand, because you don't understand, because you don't understand the mentee's goals or requirements. Or maybe the mentee
Exactly
doesn't
right.
understand exactly what you're talking about. So it's really important to constantly be open, set lots of exercises, and talk about everything very openly to make sure that you can overcome those challenges.
Lovely. I love that. And speaking of that as well, just a follow-up question. Thank you. I love it when we're talking. Like I can't just, it's overflowing in my brain right now what I'm going to ask you. Now, how can, talking about a mentors and a mentee, obviously we want them to become a better version of themselves, just like us as well,
Oh,
right? And we need to make sure that we have this art of giving feedback, right? Now, how
yes.
can mentors provide constructive feedback in a way that is helpful and empowering?
You need to make sure that the feedback that you give is going to be beneficial to that person's success, right? So the way I taking feedback can be really tough, right? A lot of people don't have problems giving feedback. They can say something like, "Yeah, I don't think," or whatever. They can give your opinion quite openly. But sometimes receiving the feedback, or sometimes being on the receiving end of someone else's criticism, can be taken as exactly that, as criticism, or can be taken as an indictment on their intellect or an indictment on them as a person. No, it's not. It's important for the mentor to make sure that any feedback that you're structuring, you structure correctly, critically, but in a way that is going to benefit the mentee in the future. Always think about the goals. So, with all my mentees, I sit down at the beginning of the trimester or whenever we start the relationship and we work out a plan, right? We have like a 3 month plan, a 6 month plan, and a 12-month plan. So, we always do like the longer is always a 12-month plan. And we set ourselves little goals along the way. So, it's important to me to understand, me as a mentor, to understand these are the goals that my mentee wants to achieve or wants to be, the place they want to be in 3 months' time. Is the feedback that I'm about to give my mentee beneficial to them reaching that goal? Is it beneficial to them to make sure that they become a better version of themselves? If it is, then I'll give it, right? But it's very important that you give it in a way that is seen as positive. Okay, feedback isn't necessarily negative. Even when it might not sound great, it shouldn't be construed as being negative. So it's all about wording the feedback and construing it in such a way that the goal of what you want your mentee to achieve, the goal that you want them to be, the place they want to be at, is always at the forefront of your mind. So that's what I make sure whenever I give feedback.
Definitely right. Thank you so much for that, Evans. And with Evans, I said Evans, right? Evan. We know who
That's
it
all
is.
right.
Talking about, I was just overwhelmed with what you're talking right now. I'm just getting excited, and I've got lots of questions right now again. So we talk about the goals, and with the feedback, they'll be able to do some self-reflection for their own personal growth,
Yeah.
right? So I have two questions. I'll separate this, okay? Talking
Okay.
about self-reflection, what are some effective after the feedback, right? What are some effective techniques that mentors can use to facilitate their self-reflection and personal growth as for the mentees itself?
As a mentor or as a mentee? So as a mentor, the self reflection
A
I'm
mentor
giving,
to
or
your mentees.
so when I'm giving feedback, I want the mentee to obviously reflect back on not just what I've said, but on what's happened. So why have I given that feedback? So it's important for the mentee to understand this feedback has been provided because this is where I want to be. This is the goal that I'm trying to get at. How do you self-reflect? You need to sit down and ask yourself, why did I do what I did? Why did I do it this particular way? Why didn't I do it in a different way? How can I do it in a different way? How can I take that feedback that the mentor has given me to make sure that I construe it? But more importantly, I think, and this is what I tell mentees all the time, just try it, right? So if someone gives you feedback and you might think, oh, this just doesn't sound all that, it sounds a bit hippy dippy, or it sounds a bit weird, or it sounds a bit crazy. It's not necessarily the case. What When you give feedback to someone, it doesn't always work for every particular person, right? So sometimes, for example, let me give you an example. I might give a mentee advice and say, look, you did this is what I would have done in this situation. Or if this is the goal that you're trying to achieve, this is, I think, what I did in the past. It's not necessarily the best path for that mentee to take. What's important, though, is take the platform, take the fundamentals of that advice, take the fundamentals of that feedback, and then regurgitate it, reconstrue it, do whatever you want to do with it in your own possible way so that it becomes effective to you. So when you are self-reflecting, when you sit back and you say, okay, well, Evan's just said to me that I should be doing this or I should be doing that. When you self-reflect and say, well, maybe I should try that. Maybe you should try it next time and just see how it works. It doesn't always work effectively. It might not work as effectively as a mentor might have said. However, what you're doing is challenging the way that you always do things. If you do things the same way every single time, it's like falling off a bike without learning how to ride. You get back on the bike, you fall off again. You get back on the bike, you fall off again. Well, something's not working. Right? Something's not working. So if someone says to you, why don't you try this? Think, well, I'm probably going to fall off the bike again. It's okay if you fall off the bike again, but you need to challenge the way you think. So when you self-reflect, take the feedback the mentor has given you, readapt it sometimes for your own circumstance, because not everything is always going to work the way that it's supposed to work. And that's how you do, I think, positive self-reflection.
Thank you so much, Evan. Do you let them write as well during giving feedback so that they can self
Yeah,
reflect
definitely.
and that could be effective in their personal growth? Great.
Definitely.
So
Self-reflection
they
is
can think
really
back.
difficult. It's actually really difficult. Some people find it's funny, like when we talk about reflection, and for me, I mean, this is a difference in all sorts of different people. For me, reflection is quite simple, quite easy, because I've got no issue talking about how I feel or thinking about what I've had in the past, reflecting on it, analyzing it, criticizing it, looking at different ways of analyzing it. When students come to me and they want, advice on different parts of their life, it's always the reflective parts that they don't understand very well. So it's really important when you reflect, look at what you're doing now, right? Look what you're doing now. Look at alternative ways of how it's done. And one of those alternatives might be the feedback that the mentor has given you. So look at alternative ways of doing what you've already done. Try them. See what works for you. And then you'll find the right way forward. So that's what the mentor does. The mentor isn't here to say, don't do that, do that. It's not what a mentor is supposed to do. A mentor is supposed to say, I see what you're trying to do. This approach has worked for me well in the past. Why don't you try it next time and see how you go? Right. And this is what really good self reflection is about. Look at what you've done, analyze why it hasn't worked for you in the past. Right. Look at different alternatives about how to achieve that same goal. One of them is might be the mentor's advice or the mentor's point of view or the mentor's suggestion. Take that suggestion, analyze it, and then go forward and try it out. That's how you always get to the path that you want to be.
I love it. Thank you so much for that, Evan. And talking about the goals and or achieving their goals or setting their goals, being part of the team of the success coaches. As a coach, we don't give advice, but we allow them, we guide them, and we help them
Yeah.
identify their goals and unlock their full potential. And as a mentor yourself, and the rest of us as well, we are able to advise them as to what to do and be able to improve in their field of expertise, right? As a mentor, we have our field of expertise.
Yeah.
I'm for the
I think
nursing, and you've got your own expertise and all that. But with the
Yeah,
goal setting,
I think that's a really important role. So sorry for a
that's okay.
mentor. I think the beauty about the mentor is the conversation that I have with students is I've been on that road before. I know what you're feeling. I know what you're going through. This is what I did to get through it. Let's see if it works for you. And that
Great.
really summarizes the mentoring relationship in a very, very sort of simplistic way. But that's what
Yeah.
I tell students. I know what it's like. I've been there before. This is what worked for me. Let's see if it works for you. All right. Now, it's not always going to work. But if it doesn't work, let's find ways that we can make it work together. That's where the mentor and mentee relationship works strongly.
Great job. And there was a question from last year as well. And I remember it's all about the setting of the goals and all that. So as a mentor,
Yeah.
what specific, if there is a specific strategy, okay, what strategies can mentors use to help their mentees to, mentees set and achieve their goals? Is
Look,
there any
we all
specific
hear about,
strategy?
yeah, look, we all hear about smart goals, and look, smart goals are okay. I mean, it's all very good, but just yes, I mean, make sure the goals are smart. I mean, for me, the most important part of a smart goal is to make sure that it is achievable. Don't set yourself ridiculous goals. I mean, all the SDMA, they're all very important, like timely, etc. Don't set yourself goals that are absolutely ridiculous and unachievable. Okay. If you go to a mentor and say, I really want to be an astrophysicist, well, that's wonderful. That's really good. And that's your goal. That's wonderful, right? Your mentor is not going to help you become an astrophysicist. They're not qualified to do that. But what your mentor can do is show you the path to developing the skills and learning the right knowledge to become an astrophysicist. That's what the mentor can help you with. So make sure that whatever goals you're setting are realistic. It's very important that they're realistic and that they're timely, obviously, as well, right? I want to be an astrophysicist in 6 months. That's not going to happen. I want to do it in 2 years. That's not going to happen. I want to do it in 5 years. That's probably not going to happen either. Let's be realistic, right? Set yourself realistic goals. Chunk up your goals into smaller goals, I think. When we start as human beings, when we achieve something, we get an endorphin rush. Think about the time when you've done your assessment and you've submitted it and you get that feeling of like satisfaction. You feel really happy. That's an endorphin rush because you've achieved your goal. Setting yourself a goal like, I want to be an astrophysicist, you're going to have to wait years to receive that endorphin rush. Along the way, you're going to have so many obstacles that are going to stop you from being an astrophysicist. And each one of those obstacles is going to try and push you away, is going to push you away from being that. All right. And that's where people they procrastinate, they get unmotivated, they change their goals, they change their career. That's not what you want. Chunk up your big goal, if that's what your goal is, chunk up your big goal into smaller, achievable, attainable goals so that when you would get that endorphin rush, and it might be the first thing might be to become more motivated. The first goal to being an astrophysicist might be to enroll at university. That might be a goal. Well, that's fine. Achieve that goal, sit down with your mentor, enroll at university. Once you do it, oh wow, I've really achieved it. That's what gives you the impetus to continue to the next goal. So make sure that you cut up things into small, little, bite-sized, achievable tasks or goals. And if when you receive that endorphin rush and that success, it's going to give you that. It's like a ball rolling down a hill, right? It gives you the momentum to go to the next one, the next one, the next one, the next one, and before you know it, you'll be an astrophysicist.
Wow. It seems like you're doing the process of elimination, reevaluating, recalculating, rebooting, and
Yeah,
that's really
absolutely,
good. That's really good. And to become more effective mentor, and your mentees will also be growing professionally and personally despite of all the obstacles as well.
definitely.
Now, how can mentors foster a culture of like for the learning and development, continuous learning? How can mentors foster a culture of continuous learning and development for both themselves and their mentees?
I think as a mentor, you are always learning, right? I am always learning from my mentees. So every time I sit down with a mentee about anything at all, I'm always learning. So for me, I love learning. Learning is my number one Gallup strength, the learner. It's always been my number one strength. That's where I get the most satisfaction, right? So I'm always learning when I'm talking to a mentee. Talking about fostering that learning environment, this is where the goals come into play, right? So these little short attainable goals. When you set yourself little short attainable goals and you put like not a little assessment, but you put something around how to achieve that goal, that's where you start to learn the most. If your goal is to become more motivated, if your goal is to procrastinate, and these are small achievable goals, everyone. These aren't goals that are impossible. Yes, we all procrastinate. Yes, we all go through periods of not being motivated. That's perfectly normal. We're not here to say that this is never going to happen to you. However, there are times when you can't afford to be unmotivated, right? There are times when you shouldn't be procrastinating. When you're doing your assessments, these are times when you can't afford to procrastinate. So set yourself little attainable goals and then work on tools with your mentor to make sure, how can I stop myself from procrastinating? What are some of the different principles and little tools that I can do? This is where the mentor can help you. The mentor can say, hey, when I was there, this is what worked for me. So these are some of the anti-procrastination techniques that work for me. let your mentee try them, and then they can develop their own from there. They might work for them, they might need to develop their own, but this is where you're constantly learning. So all these little tools and tricks of the trade are things that you will learn along the way. This is fostering that, always that collaborative learning environment where you're both learning from each other. You as a mentor will be learning all about your mentee, what works for them, what doesn't work for them, but also honing your own skills, honing your own mentoring skills. Honing your own skills of mentorship is very important. And for the mentee, they're learning lifelong skills, right? They're learning when, it's okay to sometimes procrastinate. That's perfectly normal. But they're learning what works for me at the heat of the moment. When my assessment's due in 3 or 4 days' time, this is when I need to pull all the rabbits out of the hat. This is when I need to stop procrastinating. So I've learned the tools now. I've learned my triggers. I've learned what makes me procrastinate. I've learned what makes me unmotivated. I've learned what I need to do to prevent myself from becoming procrastinated. So once you learn those things, that's when you apply them. And they're different for every person.
Wow, it's like the awakening as well. When you look back, that was me before, and look at me now. As a mentor and mentee, you both grow together professionally and
Definitely. And
personally
understand your triggers
as you
as a
go.
mentee. Understand what it is that drives you to that point of not being motivated, or that point of procrastinating, or that point of whatever it is. There are always going to be triggers, right? There are always going
Yeah.
to be triggers. So you need to understand what those triggers are to be able to work through them and look at tools to try and overcome them.
Yeah, and that comes back to the self-discovery and self-reflection and paying it
Self
forward. And as a
yeah,
mentees, they can be future mentors as well. So you're passing it, paying it
definitely,
forward, right? Just
definitely.
like us. We were mentees before, and we were lucky we've got great mentors. And look at us now. We are
Yeah,
mentoring others
it's very true.
as well to become a better person, a better version of
Yeah,
themselves,
a
professional
better
person.
version of themselves. Yeah, definitely.
Yes, thank you so much, Evan. Oh my God, I'm enjoying this conversation. Can we just talk all day?
I,
Anyway, I'm just kidding. Well, Evan, I was just thinking a while ago. Is
Mm.
was there any, or in your experience, where what are some common pitfalls or mistakes that mentors should avoid?
Don't assume that every mentee is the same, right? Don't assume that every person's, issue might be the same, or any person's goal might be the same. Everyone's going to be a little bit different. Just because one mentee comes to you and says, "Look, I really, I need to overcome." Let's use procrastination. I've mentioned it a few times. Just because one student's or one mentee's procrastination issue is here doesn't mean the other next person is going to be the same. We all procrastinate for different reasons. We all don't set goals for different reasons. We all don't submit our assessments on time or don't motivate ourselves for different reasons. So for me, I learned pretty quickly when I started mentoring a number of years ago is that not everyone's issues are the same issues. Okay, so even if the type of issue is the same, the crux of the issue or the trigger behind that issue or whatever it is that their student might need assistance with is not going to be the same. So for a mentor, don't fall into that common thing of saying, well, this is the answer to everyone's issue of procrastination. This is how you solve it. 3 dot points. That's not true. I procrastinate as well, just like everyone else does. And I've got different ways of overcoming my procrastination, but I know what my triggers are, I know what the tools are, and I know the right tool to apply at the right time. So it's really important to understand that not everyone is the same for me.
Great, that's true. I agree with you, Evan. 100%. My God, lots of words coming out right now. Empathy, being
Yeah.
genuine, authentic, self-discovery, self-awareness, continuous learning. What else? Loving what you do.
Self awareness is a really valuable tool, and it's something which I think we all struggle with, right? So
Oh, definitely.
I consider myself very self aware, but sometimes I sort of reflect back and I think, was I really self aware at that time? Was I really aware of the emotions? Was I really aware of what I was saying and doing in the context? Was I aware of how my behavior was in the team environment? So being self-aware is really, really important. I encourage all
Yeah.
students to spend as much time as they can on their self-awareness.
Yeah. Otherwise, you can't move forward as well. You keep on,
Yeah, absolutely. You
pulling
do the
back
same
and
thing.
you
It's like
can't grow.
falling off the bike. It's like falling off
Yeah,
the bike all the time. You get on, you fall off. Get on, you
exactly.
fall off.
Exactly right. And every time you wake up, you're on the same page, you're on the same bed. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So
It's like Groundhog
you
Day.
can't continue. Yeah, lovely. Now, Evan, is there, I know you have shared some success story, one story
Mm.
a while ago, in the earliest of this conversation.
Yes.
Was there any other unforgettable stories or examples of how mentorship has made a significant impact on anyone's life or career? Take it
Yeah,
away.
I think I'm going to use that same student as an example because for me, this day that I'm going to talk about just quickly is the day that I said to myself, this is what I want to do, right? This is what I love doing. I'm pretty good at it, I think, right? And I can see the benefit that I'm having. So this student was completely disengaged, um, didn't want to come to university, was enrolled in a 12-month diploma. Um, I could see highly intelligent, but just not applying himself. So I approached him, right, out of the blue. He's probably thinking, who the hell is this guy? And I said, look, let me work with you. You got some skills here. We're in a group assignment, so I could see a bit more about him. So much to his chagrin, like he did not, it was very repellent. He had, no, this is garbage. I'm not interested. But he started to see some improvements in himself. So he kept on with it. After a year of this, right? So he completed now his diploma, right? He went from, very, very average scores, he won't mind me saying, to very good credits, which for him, turning around from a 51 or a 52 to a 72 or a 75 or his first distinction, 80 in one of his subjects, was a massive thing. But for me, being invited to his graduation from his diploma was like a highlight because not only was I able to see this exceptional student and this exceptional young man graduate in a degree that he was 6 months before about to give away, right? Had no interest. Not only did I see that, but seeing the impact of this graduation on his family cemented to me exactly why I wanted to be a mentor. Because his parents both came to me absolutely teary, crying out of happiness, and just said to me, the way that you have turned our son's fortunes around and have taken him from a boy into a young man ready to enter the workforce is something that we will never forget. And we are eternally grateful to you. That was the day I cried because I could see the impact that it had. And I'm getting very emotional now. I could see the
I'm
impact it
trying to hold
had
my
on him
tears.
as a young man. I could see the impact it had on his family and his grandparents and everyone around him would come to the graduation to say, it's the first person in our family to graduate, the first person to go to university, and now he wants to do his bachelor. So not only had he gone from giving up his diploma, he's graduated, he's enrolled in a bachelor, and now I can happy to say this year he'll be starting his MBA. So that to me, that highlights exactly why I love it, and that for me is one of my biggest success stories.
Wow.
It still
I'm
makes me emotional,
speechless.
right? Because it's
I'm very,
just it was a beautiful moment. It's a beautiful moment.
I'm trying
Yeah,
to hold my tears a while ago because I'm having goosebumps. This
yeah.
conversation is just
It's
amazing. I
really
love
very
this.
special. I mean, it makes
This
me
is very
very
special.
teary now as well, right? It makes
I
me very
know.
emotional because
Oh my God.
it's an
Um,
amazing journey seeing someone evolve, and
yeah,
change, and a lot of challenges along the way for both of us. Giving it up. Already written his resignation letter from university, like written it, about to submit it, like at that level, and then to turn around and to go from failing to passing to credit to distinction to high distinction to enrolling in MBA and only 22 years old is exceptional. First full-time job, permanent job, working in sports management, exactly what he wants to do. So I could not be prouder of him.
you are part of this student's history. You have created history with the family and
And he's part
forever,
of mine, right?
forever.
And
Yeah,
he's part of mine. Look at me 3 years later, and I'm still talking about him. We still talk all the time. I
yeah,
still mentor him. He's part of my history as well. So he's
yeah. It
certainly an
is.
exceptional young man.
It's a forever thing. It's a treasure that you would love to share this to everyone. Thank you so much for inspiring us
Yeah.
today, Evan. And Evan, just
Thank
one
you.
more thing before we
Yes.
start crying because it is so good. What advice? What advice for future mentors? What advice would you give to someone who is considering becoming a mentor or wants to enhance their mentorship skills?
I think if you feel that you have the skills and you have the knowledge and you have the assistance and you have the time and the patience, etc., to impart on other people, then it's certainly something that you should consider. Um, you know whether you want to be a mentor or not, right? So for me, I've always known that that is the area, coaching, mentoring, that's always the area that I wanted to be getting to, because I could see the effect that it would have on students. And of course, the more time you spend with students and you see these wonderful successes, the more you realize this is exactly what I want to do. So the advice that I would give is to, always be patient, always be patient, always be empathetic. Never ever lose your empathy and never lose your humanity. I think is very important. Now, that's advice you can give to anyone in any job, in any walk of life. Yes. However, the key to being a successful, authentic mentor is being empathetic. You really need to understand what empathy is and what empathy stands for, and make sure that your mentor understands also that you have been on that road before and you are willing to hold their hand figuratively and go on that road together. And that's what it's about, right? It's about partnership. It's about partnering with someone on their journey in life, whatever that journey is. And with that journey is 6 months or it's 12 months or it's 5 years or whatever it is fine. But partnering with them and saying, I will walk with you side by side. I'm not going to walk in front of you. I'm not going to walk in front of you and turn around and tell you what to do, because that's not the role of the mentor. I'm not going to walk behind you and say, you do it, and I'm going to watch and not give you advice. That's not the role of the mentor. You need to walk with them side by side, hand in hand, side by side, and say, whatever we are coming, we will face this together. When it's time for that person to go away and do whatever they want, that's fine. Then you can let go and say, okay, now I'm going to watch you from afar. But it's important to understand, for mentees, security, for their understanding, for their well-being, the mentee needs to understand that the mentor is empathetic and is holding their hand with them along the way. So for me, never ever lose that. It's very important.
You know what, Evan? I'm so grateful that we had this podcast today. You have inspired me, and I'm sure the whole world will be inspired watching this recorded podcast of ours. How to
Thank
become
you.
effective mentors, understanding how to become more effective as a mentor themselves, and future mentees too, to be more comfortable with their mentors. And thank you for
Yeah,
sharing beautiful
my
stories,
pleasure.
techniques, and strategies. You're just selfless. And just you're amazing, Evan. I want to hug you today. Thank you so much. Thank you
Thank
for the
you.
roller coaster emotions today, honestly. And it's
Thank you.
uh, just unbelievable. I don't know. I'm just really speechless at this time. And I you're amazing. Thank you. Thank you so
Thank you,
much for
Lee.
the time, the
Thank you so
effort.
much for having me.
I've lost track. I have lots of questions, but I know you have things to do right now. But I think for the past, I don't know how many minutes now it's been. I feel like it's only 1 minute. We're still talking about a lot of things, but again, you've said a lot of great things today, and I'm sure if you watch this, guys, over and over again, you will treasure this forever, and how to become more effective, or elevating your mentorship
Elevating.
skills. And Evan, thank you once again. Thank you so much
Thank you.
for
Thank you so
doing
much.
this
Thank you,
with
Lee.
me, and many more to come. Okay. All right.
Thank
So
you.
sit back
Thank
and
you very
relax
much.
there, Evan. Love what you do, as you have mentioned. Guys, you've just heard from our exceptional mentor, Evan Karas. You know, being empathetic, be genuine, connect with your mentees. A lot of things that he has mentioned today. You can, play this recorded video later on. There's so much things that he wants you to do in the future from this day onwards. So please don't forget, unlock your full potential and make a lasting impact through the power of mentorship. Stay motivated, guys. Stay
Yes.
amplified, right, Evan? And
Yes,
always
definitely.
remember, ladies and gentlemen, you have the power, you have the capability of creating the life you desire. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. See you again next time for our next episode. Evan, you are amazing. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Bye.